My name is Consuelo Ortiz. This is my second time in a Wireless LAN Plus conference. As Keith mentioned, I work for Wi-Fi Alliance, developing programs that improve performance of managed Wi-Fi networks. So it's an honor and a pleasure to be here presenting to you guys, and thank you to Keith for making it happen in beautiful Lisbon. My presentation today, I'm going to cover a little bit about what is Wi-Fi Alliance, what we do, and then I'll follow with a touch on the technologies that we have recently released for managed Wi-Fi networks. And Veli-Pekka, who follows my presentation, there he is, he will do a deeper dive in the underlying technologies that are part of those Wi-Fi Alliance certifications. And I will close the presentation talking a little bit about next generation and what's coming next. So, although in my career I did hold several engineering positions in semiconductors and IT industry, I changed to the dark side, marketing. So bear with me for a second, because some of my slides will have that marketing look that you guys hate, or love to hate. But anyway, so what is Wi-Fi Alliance? So Wi-Fi Alliance is an organization that was formed many years ago in order to increase adoption of Wi-Fi technologies by guaranteeing interoperation or interoperability of devices from different brands and even different generations. So we have been very successful in doing that. But I think that we have been so successful. And the vision is to connect everyone to everything. And yes, Wi-Fi Alliance is responsible for making the industry growth. That is our main goal. But you guys are the ones that actually make it happen. You're the ones that do deploy Wi-Fi in the real world. And one of the things that we're working to do is work closely with you guys and find ways to better communicate and perhaps develop more technical material that is very suited for this community instead of our sometimes very elevated marketing presentations. So we've been in conversations with KEYS, with the Wireless Association, with the OLPC to find ways to increase the communication channels and make sure that we hear the gaps that you guys see so that we can develop a better Wi-Fi technologies roadmap. So what we are. So Wi-Fi Alliance is the world network of companies that bring you Wi-Fi. We have over 800 members that work in what I call a coopetitive environment, meaning we collaborate, but they're fierce competitors in the market. So we are a little bit strict in the way we do things because we are in that coopetitive environment. But all of our members drive to bring the future of Wi-Fi and to develop new certifications that continue the Wi-Fi evolution. One of the things that I wanted to do is explain a little bit how we develop our certifications. And I know that usually we come out with wonderful names like Passpoint, Vantage, Miracast, Halo, and nobody knows what that means or what decodes into what IEEE standard. So we're trying to be better at that and be more open about the underlying technologies. But basically in Wi-Fi Alliance, we do borrow from other standard organizations. IEEE is a very good example, or other associations, but we also develop our own technologies. And one good example, I don't know if you guys are aware of Wi-Fi Aware, which was recently adopted in the Android platform. It's a technology that allows to create a network between Wi-Fi devices without the need for infrastructure. So that's an example, a unique technology. But most of the time, we do base our developments on existing technologies, particularly from IEEE. So because it is, we do use IEEE as a base a foundational base for a lot of our technologies, I thought I would explain a little bit how we work with them and the differences between the two organizations. So IEEE is a professional organization, and Wi-Fi Alliance is a trade organization. So our missions are slightly different. For IEEE, they want to develop technologies, enhance engineering disciplines. And in Wi-Fi Alliance, we want to increase the market footprint, make technologies successful, remove barriers to adoption. Very different philosophies. Yet, I mean, we work together and we borrow from each other, or we borrow from them. The other big difference is in IEEE is memberships are individual, so one vote per person. In Wi-Fi Alliance, there are corporation, one vote for company. And even if a company has different affiliates, it's still one vote per company. It doesn't matter how many affiliates they have. So let's say IEEE comes out with a wonderful technology and our member companies decide, yeah, that it makes sense, that's good to take to market. So they start looking at that particular specification and decide what are the key features that must be implemented and tested. And we develop a specification to implement and test that set of features. In some cases, like with most recently Agile Multiband, Wi-Fi Agile Multiband, we determined that some extra things were needed. So we developed either additional information elements or more ways to communicate or use certain aspects of IEEE defined features to, in different ways. So it has a Wi-Fi Alliance flavor. So the combination of that, the overlap with the IEEE spec and the elements that were selected, in addition to the Wi-Fi Alliance developed technologies, is what conforms a Wi-Fi Alliance certification. Okay? Moving to my other topic. So we know that a lot of the growth in Wi-Fi has come from managed networks. And we see an increased number, and I used sometimes the word operators to describe them. But operators mean anyone that has a managed Wi-Fi network. It could be a hotel, a retail, education, enterprise, and now home environment. But the users have grown to expect wide availability of Wi-Fi, and they're ready to connect and stream and chat anywhere they are. And we have had tremendous success, but we have also created a lot of demand. So one of the things that we know, as you were stating, wireless is about maintaining the user expectations. It's about experience. And we need to improve the way we deploy and create these technologies to ensure that we work better in a more congested environment. I mean, wireless is a scarce resource, and we have many people using it. So in Wi-Fi Alliance, we decided that we needed to start raising the bar and create a type of certification to enable users and, more importantly, administrators, managers of Wi-Fi networks to easily identify those products that are better qualified or that have met additional requirements that will make them better qualified to work in managed networks. And so I don't know, last year we announced something that is called Wi-Fi Certified Vantage. Why Vantage? No idea. Is one of those names. But Wi-Fi Vantage is a different type of certification. It's not a single technology. It bundles technologies. And for example, last year release, it included technologies for high performance and to secure a light touch authentication. And those technologies existed already in the market. So we're talking about 11AC and Passpoint. And more recently, in September, early September, we announced availability of a next generation of Vantage devices. It's going to be Vantage Release 2. They will be available sometime early next year. We haven't decided exactly on the date, but keep an eye for them. And they have two new technologies. One, to enable a better use of spectrum, give the network managers more capabilities to manage the network. And the other one is more about improved roaming, faster transitions, faster connections, as well as minimizing the number of management frames. So, and these two technologies are Wi-Fi certified Agile Multiband, and that was launched and made available on September 7th. And the other one is Wi-Fi certified optimized connectivity that it will be available later this year. sometime in December. So I'm going to dive a little bit more into those technologies in a minute, but I just want to say that basically the idea with Vantage is what we want to create sort of an evolutionary roadmap, identifying the latest technologies that should be in desirable devices that you want to have in managed networks. So we started with release 1, we have release 2, and we have a group that is the dedicated group of what we call operators, quotes, and they define the roadmap of Wi-Fi features that I needed. So it's what we call a segment market group, and they identify features needed in the roadmap. They do that by looking at what are the gaps, where do we have issues, what are the problems that we need to solve, and then we start finding out what are the technologies that we need to match in order to close those gaps and continue in a upward growth. So the 3 pillars for Vantage are mobility, manageability, and performance. So typically mobility is talking about the faster transition, faster roaming. Manageability is provide network administrators better ways to steer clients, for example, and eliminate the sticky client behavior as a good example. And in performance is typically given by R5s, what is the latest PHY. So right now it's AC, and in the future, and we start seeing products now, is AX that's coming. So the first of the new technologies that I mentioned before is Wi-Fi Agile Multiband. And that leverages several IEEE technologies, KVR, for the most part, and we have a little bit of you. So the idea with that is we want to provide some sort of dynamic monitoring so that the network can provide some intelligent steering to guide the client to either a different AP or a different band, because you need to balance the load, because that client's SSI level is too bad and performance is bad that you just want to kick it out of that AP and force it to move to a different place. And it also includes fast transitions, and fast transition is 802.11k R, and it's all about expediting that transition in between APs within the same network. So I have included this slide, which I know is very small print, but don't worry, because PP is going to tell you much more about that. And it basically is kind of matching that alphabet soup of IEEE standards that are used as part of Vantage. And at the bottom, I have a list of the Wi-Fi technologies that were added and incorporated to enhance and extend the value of the features that we have from IEEE's 802.11 standards. So again, it's KVR, K for radio resource management, V for wireless network management. The first one is the monitoring side. The second one is the intelligent steering. Fast transitions that enables clients to authenticate faster if they're using WPA2, either personal or enterprise. And 802.11u is just using ANQP to transfer some of the messages that are in K or V. In addition to a list of Wi-Fi Alliance developed technologies. For example, there's a new information element. There are new things that were added in order to expand the capabilities of Wi-Fi Agile Multiband. So the next one is Wi-Fi optimized connectivity. Wi-Fi optimized connectivity is about faster connection. So we know that Wi-Fi has reached greater speeds, but still trying to connect to a Wi-Fi network could take 2-5 seconds. So that's a really bad experience for users. So one of the things that the group decided was that we needed to leverage technologies in 802.11i, that is FILS, first initial link setup. So what that IEEE group set up to do is to reduce that initial connection setup time that I said could take between 2 to 5 seconds to bring it down to 100 milliseconds. Yeah, that's the theoretical number. But even if we bring it down to half a second, it will be a great improvement. But the goal that they set when writing the spec was to bring it down to 100 milliseconds. So I think that different implementations would achieve different numbers, depending also in the environment that they are. But it's a pretty good standard that brings radical change. The other thing that they do, in order to do this, they do kind of an optimized discovery. So there's a lot of information that is piggyback on beacons. There's a huge reduction on the number of management frames that you need, which also allows frees a spectrum for real work instead of just using connecting or trying to. They're also optimized authentication using fields authentication. This last one is kind of, you're going to say, oh, well, what do you do with fast transition? It's kind of the same. It is, and they do overlap to a certain extent, but remember that fast transitions allow transition between APs within the same network. And with 802.11 AI, you can do it between networks or between wireless and cellular or vice versa. So that's probably the main difference between two. So here goes the slide with little print for the guys on the back. Sorry for that. But, so it's just talking about the elements that are inside Wi-Fi optimized connectivity. I mentioned a lot of them before, the network discovery, channel scan prioritization. There's a lot of new measurements or new metrics that are taken in order to enable clients to make better decisions. So if you imagine as you walk into a Wi-Fi network, the first thing that you want to do is discover that network. And with fields, you could have a faster discovery, more rapid. And then you have to decide if you are moving, when and where to roam next. So optimized connectivity leverages MBO, the Agile Multiband that I mentioned before. And it then wouldn't use network information about load balancing or in trying to steer the clients to the preferred AP or that the network believes is the preferred AP or channel. But at the same time, the client is also taking their own metrics, and with that information, the client-centric and the network-centric that comes from Agile Multiband, the client should be able to make better decisions as to when and where to roam, so that it would have a better quality of experience of service as they're moving around. So after you move and you transfer, okay, so you have that, but you also have to provide certain level of quality, and as you continue to roam, I mean, the clients are continuously monitoring and either steering or transitioning in between devices using either FTE or fields authentication. I speak too fast sometimes, so I try to slow down, but it's the Spanish thing, so I can't help myself. But if you don't understand, please raise your hands and I'll try to pace myself out. Oh, there's nothing. So this is a recap of the things that I mentioned today. So we're working, trying to raise the bar of devices that are in Wi-Fi, managed Wi-Fi networks, and we have identified a new certification or a new way to recognize those devices, and that is called Vantage. We recently announced a Wi-Fi Agile Multiband certification, which is the one that provides the intelligent steering and dynamic monitoring and fast transitions, so that your voice over IP applications will continue to work as your clients are moving across a same network. And then we have Wi-Fi optimized connectivity that is coming out later in the year that will provide that fields first initial link setup, that quick connectivity to the network, a different type of authentication that would enable you to also very quickly transition between networks. And in addition to that, we're looking into generational Wi-Fi and things that are continuously changing. So what the next big change for Wi-Fi is going to be AX. You've seen that silicon is already available. The certification would be available later next year. And we continue to work based on what we hear from the market, trying to close gaps. We, for example, I included there a Y-Gig, which provides really fast connection, point-to-point connection, kind of a cable replacement in a way. We also have sub 1 gig technologies for the smart cities or maybe long-range applications. And Wi-Fi Alliance, continues to innovate based on the gaps that we identify in the market, but we also try to carry the voice of the Wi-Fi community. So we work closely with regulators, trying to address topics of interest and trying to make sure that we have fair use of a spectrum. We all are always looking at new FIs, new technologies to continue to improve and augment our roadmap. And we listen to the market. So one of the things that brought me here is that we want to ensure that the Wi-Fi technologies continue to evolve with and taking into account the gaps that you see in the market. So one of the reasons for me being here is trying to understand what are the gaps that you see and how we can close those gaps. So let's continue the conversation. You know where to find me. I'm Consuelo Ortiz, and I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you.